Hello, this video is about a D40 Navara and the MAF sensor of that vehicle. Now, a traditional MAF sensor in a car possibly looks like this if you're used to older cars. So what this basically does, it recognizes how much air is going through it. This is the device that tells your engine controls unit how much air is going into the system so that it can compensate it with fuel. Usually these are also equipped with a temperature sensor because it has to know how cold or how warm the engine has or how warm or cold the air entering the engine is to calculate the volumetric efficiency and that kind of stuff. Now, as you can see, it's not the warmest of the weathers. It's minus 30 degrees Celsius, which is minus 22 Fahrenheit. And yeah, let's give this car a go. I can show you how the MAF sensor in this car acts up and how it's malfunctioning. I have this very generic OBD2 scanner, and as you can see, since it's very cold, the screen also moves very slowly. But when I enter the live data on this engine, it doesn't give me any check engine lights or anything, but when I go to the real-time data, I can show you how the MAF sensor is acting. And here you can see all kinds of things. The engine temperature sensor says it's 12 degrees Celsius. That's because I have been running this engine for a while here when I'm doing this video. That's the MAP, so that's the pressure of intake manifold. That should be around 100 kPa at the moment because there's no throttle body on a diesel engine. RPMs and so on. Then there's the intake or air temperature, which shows minus 10. Minus 10 is pretty natural because the MAF sensor location is pretty near the exhaust manifold, and the exhaust manifold is giving a bit of heat to it. And then there's the MAF, which shows grams per second. And when I click this, it makes a graph of how the MAF sensor is reading. And now it's showing this kind of a saw blade figure at idle, which is around, the lowest end is 1 or 3 and the highest end is 20.3. And this already should give me an indication that the MAF sensor is somehow faulty because it's varying so much at idle, and it shouldn't drop down as a spike that much low down. When I give it a bit of throttle, it shows also that the MAF sensor is giving this kind of alternating, varying data. It's not stable at all, and it spikes up when I request it to spike up if I press the throttle. But the kind of varying that you see is an indication of everything not being okay. And now I'll take you on a test drive and show you also how this MAF sensor is giving me a hard time. As you can see, we have a lovely weather here. It's very beautiful on video, but it's very cold, and we don't have any kind of traction at the moment, so I have to put this car on four-wheel drive like so. And now, well, I can tell you how it's acting up, and how I know it's from the MAF sensor is when I give it a bit of throttle. So when I try to accelerate, yeah, it accelerates all right, and the MAF sensor reading is also correct. But sometimes when I'm accelerating, it kind of jitters. It kind of splits. And that's when I also see from the MAF sensor data that there's a spike downwards in between the normal acceleration. Right now I'm driving on a highway at steady gas, and you can see also the data is varying very much. I have my foot at stable, it's not moving at all, but the MAF value is moving between 62 and almost 80. So from 60 to 80, I think that's quite a large gap that the and it's telling me that the MAF sensor is not reading correctly. It should be a bit more stable. And also, if well, you're seeing that I'm driving 80 kilometers an hour now, and when I drop a gear and give it a bit of throttle, well, it's the demo effect. I can't get the car to do the thing that I was doing before when I'm trying to give it a demonstration. But trust me, earlier it was splitting like crazy. It was not giving me anything when I pressed the go pedal, and it was just splitting all the time, and it was driving like this. And when you look at the data for the MAF sensor, there were big spikes downwards, and then it just came up like and did like that. So you could see that the data from the MAF sensor was not very clean. There was some kind of a split there, and I tried many times to do all sorts of tricks to the MAF sensor. I tried cleaning it multiple times. I tried to keep it in warm, and nothing helped. But one thing that I can tell you that helps, if the car is sputtering really much on cold weather or anything, and it's giving you the P012B fault code, which refers to the MAP sensor, which is the intake pressure sensor, is that you can just unplug the MAF sensor. It doesn't give you a check engine light. Well, naturally you have to clear the check engine light first by either with an OBD2 reader or by removing the battery terminal for a while. But then when you remove the plug for the MAF sensor, the car runs almost as normal. Well, naturally the ECU recognizes that there's no MAF sensor, but it doesn't give you a fault code for it. It just returns to the base map and still drives. It's just limiting power quite a lot. I think it's limiting it by fuel and by boost pressure, but you can still drive the car without a MAF sensor. But if the car is giving you check engine light and reducing the power so much that you can't drive, you can always just unplug the battery terminal, plug it back in, check that there's no check engine light anymore, and just unplug the MAF sensor, and you can keep driving. That's the most important part sometimes when you have these annoying check engine lights that prevent you from driving at all, because the check engine light which comes on with the P012B is the kind that makes the car go to limp mode, and the limp mode is really annoying to drive. You cannot go anywhere with that, but once you remove the MAF sensor plug, it gives you still enough power to drive. Now about the MAF sensor itself. It looks like this. This is a brand new part, and it is, whoops, it is made in Japan. So, 本当に日本語車です. And now, next I'm going to show you how to replace this. And let's see the data after replacing a new MAF sensor. And the MAF sensor is located here. There are a couple of 7mm bolts here that you need to unscrew. Then you just remove the plug, and the MAF sensor comes out this way. And there's no chance to put this on the wrong way, because if you put it in like that, the bolt holes will line up, but if you try putting it on the wrong way, the bolt holes won't line up, so there's no possibility to put it on wrong way. And there's nothing wrong with this sensor on the outside, and most of the time it works just fine, but I suspect that these get kind of micro fractures inside of them because they start working as badly as mine, and I'll replace it with a new one. There, the new one goes in. Just push the plug in and torque the screws. Now, one thing also that I like to do when I change a sensor like this is that I need to reset my ECU. And the easiest way to reset the ECU is by unplugging the negative terminal from your battery for a while, let it sit, and then connect it back on and let the car idle for, say, 5 minutes. Let it just be, let it breathe, and let the engine notice that there's something changed. I mean, when you reset the ECU, it returns to the base maps and it loses all adaptations for air and fuel, and it doesn't know that you changed the sensor. So we'll give it some time to learn that there's a new sensor, and then when I let it idle for, say, 5 minutes, I'll take it for a test drive and I'll drive it very gently, no rough accelerations or anything. I drive it very gently for about 20 minutes on a highway, in the city, and all sorts of different scenarios, so that the ECU learns the new adaptations for the MAF sensor. Now, let's hook this back on, like so. There, it's tight, nice and tight, and let's start the car. And now just let it idle. And I want to see what that live data looks like in a few minutes. Right, after changing the MAF sensor and driving for a bit, the MAF sensor data looks like this. And I can tell you right now, this is not normal. So, first of all, the value is too high. Grams per second should be less than 12. And it's varying between 13 and 20. So this can indicate that the EGR valve is actually leaking. So it's leaking exhaust gases to the intake constantly. And now I need to check this next. It's possible that our MAF sensor was faulty because there was those dips down in the previous data, which is no longer here. But also this indicates now to a faulty EGR. I need to check that next. Alright, I drove the car a few days to work and back in very cold temperatures. I mean, it was like minus 20 degrees Celsius. And I noticed that when I was driving it to work, I always had a feeling, I always had some kind of a doubt that the car is not warming up as it should be. But then again, it's a diesel. I mean, diesels don't heat up as well as gasoline engines. And the dash needle that shows the engine temperature is not as accurate as the ECU reading of the temperature. So when I was driving it to work and back, I noticed that the car doesn't want to get to normal temperature at all. So the highest temperature that it got on a 45 kilometer trip one way was around 70 degrees Celsius, which means that possibly the thermostat was leaking. or something, and the engine never got to operating temperature. So that was one fault that I'm pretty sure that had to be fixed, along with the possibly just a little bit faulty MAF sensor. I mean, I'm not completely sure if the MAF sensor was really faulty, but it was a pretty good time to change it already. So I have the old thermostat somewhere, but one thing I also did, I replaced the EGR. So this is the EGR from my Nissan Navara. I'll zoom in so you can see. So this is the side that lets out exhaust fumes to the inlet manifold, and this is the engine side, so this is the hot side. And if you've seen EGRs, you know that this is not bad at all. This is not like clunked up from carbon deposits, and I haven't cleaned this at all after I changed it. But there must have been something wrong with this, because after I changed the EGR and the thermostat and naturally the coolant also, I noticed that the car warms up very much faster, and it runs perfectly smooth. I mean, there's no hesitation, there's no idling problems or anything, and the MAF sensor readings and everything turned to normal. So something was wrong with the EGR, and it would be one possibility also to block this off completely, but I want to keep the car as stock as possible, and I don't mind the EGR systems and so on. This was around 150 euros or something like that for a new valve, so it's not too bad. And one thing I want to also mention now is that I used a BASF G48 coolant in this car. I don't know if it's really a Nissan OEM spec coolant, but I think it's the best kind for this kind of engine, that it has a iron block and an aluminium head with a turbocharger. I mean, this is a hybrid organic acid coolant, so it has to be one of the best solutions for this engine. Now all I gotta do still, as a part of this whole system that I'm looking for, I was looking at the rail pressure for diesel. So the fuel temperature, fuel pressure while idling, and it's around 285 to 290 bars of pressure. So that's kPa, that means kilopascals, but it's same as 290 bars, and that's completely normal, and it's not varying very much. So the suction control valve either, which controls the fuel pressure in the common rail system, it's not faulty at all. But I was thinking that maybe there's also a bit of hesitation when I'm driving along the highway, maybe because of diesel particle debris or something in the diesel filter. So I'm going to change the fuel filter still once to this car and check if that changes anything, even to a bit better situation with the running. Right, we are cruising. The diesel filter change is one of the easiest things you can do to a Navara, I think, because it's so it's placed so easily in the engine bay, and yeah, I think it's one thing that you just gotta do regularly. And now the car feels very normal. I've been cruising for maybe 2 kilometers, and now the temperature is already starting to rise, which was previously before the thermostat change was very abnormal. So it's rising, and it's rising very quickly even. But I gotta tell you, I should have filmed that thermostat change, because it was a pain in the ass to do. It was very difficult to do. I thought that it was gonna be very easy, you know, just get the lower radiator hose off and there you go, there's the thermostat like it's in almost every other engine. But Nissan Navara, nope. You had to change, you had to remove the alternator, you had to remove the belts and everything, and yeah, it was a task to do. But anyways, I'm gonna run the car to normal operating temperature now, and then stop to see the values from the ECU, if everything looks normal, and I think they should look normal, like since we have changed now the coolant to a BASF G48, which is an HOAS coolant, and I used only distilled water. I don't know if it's called still water, but the stuff that you put into your battery also, and then we changed the coolant, like I said, the thermostat, the MAF sensor, we changed the EGR to a new one, and the diesel filter. So I don't think and the SCV valve is just fine, so we don't have to change that now. But there's not much to do anymore. I think what we're gonna see now is just normal values from the ECU, and yeah, well, it's starting to be ready already. So as you can see, it's warming up very nicely now with the new thermostat. So I'm just gonna run the car and see what it tells me when it's warm. Okay, so here we are in my usual playground. This is a closed area where we can test our cars, and as you can see, I'm drifting along very nicely. Yay! And now let's see the values, what the engine is giving us. So well, let's try to focus. There we go. So engine temperature 81. That should be rather normal operating temperature. The MAF value is still a bit high. So I think it's not completely warm as it should be. But also from the diesel line pressure, we can maybe see the scale between 288 bars and 267, so it's varying still quite a bit. The engine's not completely warm. The MAF sensor is still showing a bit high readings. It must be because the ECU is still a bit unsure if the engine is completely warm, but yeah, these spikes that you see over here is the EGR and fuel and everything adjusting so that the engine would get properly warmed up. But this is normal because we know, as you can see, the engine is getting colder pretty quick, because I wasn't driving that. It was a very short distance as I was driving, but as I said previously, when I was driving it with these same kind of systems and same sensors and stuff like that. The values were completely normal. Now the engine's not completely warm, and after changing the diesel filter, everything feels normal too, so the car is in a-okay condition and maintained pretty well. Next oil change in about 2,000 kilometers, because I changed between 10,000 kilometers always the oil. But I think this video we can wrap up now, so thank you and have a nice day.